My name is Brian Dinkel. I am the front ensemble and audio coordinator of the Blue Devils Drum and Bugle Corps, and as well as Arranger. Cymbals are a really important part of the contribution of the front ensemble. I often talk when I'm writing for groups or I'm designing or working with my students here at the Blue Devils that if we had one person in the front ensemble, we were only afforded one performer, they'd probably spend most of their show performing on cymbals because it's one of the most important colors that a front ensemble contributes to the greater ensemble around us. Here at the Blue Devils, we do not, as with many drum corps these days, we don't march a cymbal line. So the front ensemble bears the brunt of providing all of the color, or all of those cymbal colors to the ensemble, which is a great variety of sounds we use. From the drum set and all the different colors that he has, from stacks, different chinas, different size things, different things in his loadout that are really specific to the drum set, to a pretty heavy arsenal of cymbals mounted on all our mallet instruments. Typically our marimba loadout is a splash cymbal, a small crash of some sort for punctuations, a china cymbal, and then a larger size suspended cymbal. And then with the vibraphones as well, it's usually our vibraphones will have a suspended cymbal, a china, and then some variety of different colors, whether it's wind chimes, crotales, triangles, other different metallic items. One of the most important things that we contribute is just the role of the suspended cymbal. So one of the first things we do when we're laying out our cymbals and what goes where is just figuring out our suspended cymbal layout. The brunt of our arsenal is the classic orchestral. I feel like that's our workhorse, all-purpose, general use suspended cymbal for anywhere from like the 17s, the 18s, the 19s, to the 20s. The Constantinople is another sound we kind of match in there with the classic orchestral to give some contrast, something a little bit darker that gives us some good warmth to pair with the classic orchestral. From there, we kind of start looking at what the specific needs of the show are. One of the things we've kind of been fixated towards over the last few years is using like a 13, 14, 15-inch crash that we pair with the suspended cymbal so that when we need like something that's a little faster responsive, a little bit more punchy, but in that same like vein of a suspended cymbal sound, we'll use those crashes to augment that. On the china side, we use a pretty good range of things. What you'll notice with our ensemble setup is with the outside performers, we'll go on the side of using some larger chinas and larger suspended cymbals like the ultra hammered 21-inch series, or like I said before, the 20-inch classic orchestral. And then as we kind of move in towards the center of the front ensemble, we'll kind of start pairing in the sizes and getting a little smaller and a little narrower. And for two reasons. One is just making sure that when we're thinking about the hierarchy of sound, we're kind of starting with brighter colors and higher register and then moving our way to the darker, warmer things on the outside. But also just a lot of the time, our bigger moments, the artillery comes from the outside of the front ensemble, whether it's performers shifting over to play tam-tam or some of the larger suspended cymbals. So we kind of have like a size hierarchy that works from inside to outside, where you'll see some of our smaller size chinas, suspended cymbals, crashes and splashes more towards the center of the front ensemble. And then the further you get to the outside of the marimba section, the outside of the vibes, then you'll start to see some of the larger items to where, like, if you look at our outside vibes, you'll see like 20, 21-inch, 22-inch, some of the really heavy stuff. just looking at our front ensemble, as they make a lot of noise behind me right now, there's such a concentration of cymbals and microphones in the center of the front ensemble between our drum set, our marimba players, our xylo player. So part of the reason why we go with the larger cymbals on the outside is just to make sure that all the wash of things that we're doing on the big roll moments and the bigger moments of the core are more concentrated to the outside, where there's less ambient mics that are going to pick up some of that decay and some of that wash. Like, you know, we have one tam-tam in our front ensemble has like the greatest tone, and it's really warm and it rings out for a long time. But if we had that in the center of our front ensemble or closer to the drum set, we'd be picking up some of that decay and some of that wash for about 30 seconds after we strike that thing. So yeah, there's definitely a thought process to the way things decay, the way things mellow out with the space dispersion, and that's a big part of why our choices will go from brighter, smaller, to larger and darker on the outside. Our use of the field mics this year is a lot different than it's been in the past. In the past, we'd kind of have an even concentration, like from inside to outside, and we'd use them like in a blanket format. This year, we've gotten really selective about our use of the field mics. We're doing a little bit more individual miking on some of the brass instruments and less larger scale field miking. So if you look at the way we use our field mics this year, they're more targeted for like this moment where the snares are playing with plastics, this section where the quads are using like a dreadlock type implement, this part where the brass are really far over to the side and playing a section feature. So our field miking use is a lot more minimal this year, and that's a good thing because there's just a lot less ambient stuff from the front ensemble getting picked up in those mics, and a lot less bleed and wash that we're worried about. You know, the big difference between indoor and outdoor is just what happens with that sound after you strike a cymbal. The indoor percussion genre, we get ourselves into trouble if we write and use the same cymbal loadout that we use indoors, just because a gym is a very reverberant space. So if we strike a cymbal, we're going to be hearing that cymbal for a good 5, 10, 15 seconds sometimes afterwards, especially when we're in a smaller venue. So in the drum corps world, we'll generally go a little bit larger with everything. Like our larger size in drum corps would be like a 21-inch, 20-inch. Indoor percussion will be a lot more selective about how we just use cymbal colors, because like you said, when you're in an indoor space, you get a lot more of the wash and bleed, and you cover up some of the intricate nuanced, detailed things that we're able to do indoors that in the drum corps world are not as necessary, because the audience is seeing things from a much wider lens than they do in indoor percussion, where you might have audience members who are 5 or 6 feet away from the front ensemble indoors, whereas you know, when we're in Lucas Oil, the nearest audience member is still going to be probably about 70, 80 feet away from where the front ensemble is producing the sound. In terms of like the way we use cymbal colors to highlight the battery percussion, for example, over the years that I've been working with Zildjian, I've just learned so many little tricks about just certain sounds and the way they pair. Like, for example, one of our little secrets is just like the 9 and 11-inch Oriental Trash Splash, one of my favorite colors to use of all time, because of the way it pairs with like a battery impact statement, whether it's like a rim shot, like the snares play something really subtle, or it's like a big resolution end of the phrase. Like the way those things pair in with those voices is a really powerful thing. So we do a lot of interaction between the front ensemble and the battery, and there's a lot of things at the ends of phrases or important ideas that they're doing that we're always trying to highlight or illustrate or add a little bit more color to give it some resolution. We use our small chinas for that a lot in the xylophone and the drum set. We'll use a lot of the splashes. You know, we'll usually have like an assortment of splashes in our marimba section, so we could do some like layered things. And sometimes it's just we want to augment battery moments with like splashes in different colors and have like a pitch hierarchy that's traveling this way or that way. And other times it's just sounds we know we really like the way it pairs with this. Like the 14-inch mini china sounds great with like a full quad line drum 1 and 2 slam. You know what I mean? It's just over the years of doing this and using Zildjian projects, we've just gotten able to develop our own sound and get a really intuitive feel for just what matches up well. And you know, and I'd say that's a big part of my style and my writing style, is just knowing those relationships and knowing what things work better in which situation. I would love if there was a manual on all this, but I think it's just institutional knowledge that we've acquired over the years of just, yeah, that really sounds interesting, or that, you know, maybe we could use something a little heavier, or something a little lighter, something that has a little bit more brilliance, or something that's a little darker. So it's like we learn about these properties from just many, many years of trial and error. You know, the spatial environment of the drum corps staging has a big effect on the way we pair things in the front ensemble. So for example, we use a bass drum and tam-tam on either side of the front ensemble, and we'll write those parts in a bubble like in the early part of the season, knowing like, okay, I want this color here. But once we see the corps on the field and we see where the battery is, we see where the horn line is, then we get to make more informed decisions about this player's in a better listening situation, or when we have this kind of a distance across the ensemble, this sound might be a little bit more of a delicate touch, this sound might be a little bit heavier. So I think that the spatial orientation of the corps proper behind us on the field probably is the bigger informer of those decisions. I think there's big moments like the ends of the show or the ends of big full ensemble statements where it's like all hands on deck. But more often than not, those are really selective, like limited applications, and it's more just, you know, how close to the front of the field is the battery and how bright their sound is going to image because of that. And then sometimes it's something simple like, okay, the quads are up on a prop or they're mic'd here, we don't need anything too heavy because of where they're staged, and we don't need to be too obtrusive with that. And other times where we're like, okay, the battery's really far back field, so we need to bring the artillery to match what they're bringing back there in those bigger moments too. My relationship with Zildjian goes back even longer than my time here with the Blue Devils Drum Corps. I've been using Zildjian cymbals since early on in my career as a percussionist, and one of the things that I've learned about Zildjian that I love is just the consistency of their products over the years. You know what I mean? Like there's colors that I fell in love with early in my career that I still bring with me everywhere I go to this point. And you know, one of the things that I love about Zildjian is just there's little bits of variance in those colors, but there's just such great consistency over the years. Like I know, you know, the sound I fell in love with about a 9-inch Oriental Trash Splash, like in 2004, those qualities still exist. And even though they're like no two cymbals ever sound exactly alike, you know that the product you fell in love with at this point, it's only going to continue to get better and evolve and become more consistent. It's not going to be something that where you order the same cymbal 5 years later and you're getting a completely different sounding cymbal because something has changed that we didn't know about. So Zildjian, one of the things I love about Zildjian is as their arsenal has grown, and as the depth of the catalog has grown, the tried and true offerings have only gotten better and have been something that they've continued to build around.